good day, everyone. Welcome to our Ag Tech Industry Uncovered podcast series here at Charles Aris Executive Search. My name is Eric Spell, and I lead our agriculture practice. We are fortunate today to have Andrew Uden, which is the CEO of HerdDogg, with us today, and fifth generation family farmer. And looking forward to having Andrew with us. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Yeah. So Andrew, just going to give you the floor for a few minutes. And what we'd like to do is you could give an overview of your family operation and HerdDogg and the technology associated. That would be great.
Yeah. So I, like you said, fifth generation family farmer. Our family has farmed. We've raised cattle. We're really cattle producers more than anything. We've done ranching, stocking, backgrounding. Now my parents built a feedlot starting in the 80s with some partners, and we still have most of the original partners. My dad still operates that out in central Nebraska. We feed 50,000 head at a time. My brother-in-law married into the family, and he runs our ranching sector. So yeah, that was me growing up, was cattle industry and ag, 4-H, showing heifers all over the country. That was kind of my background. And when I got out of university, I was home for a few years running things and or not running things, but running different divisions of the operation under my dad and his partners, and got an opportunity to join some various ag tech companies coming out of the University of Nebraska and just my overall network. And ultimately over the last 8 years of multiple ag tech companies, from other biometric ear tags to smart syringes, led me to HerdDogg. And I took over as CEO of HerdDogg about 18 months ago now. So HerdDogg is kind of the newest generation of biometric ear tag. We monitor cattle 24/7. We're collecting movement, temperature data off of animals via a Bluetooth ear tag. That all that data goes into the cloud, and really the service we provide is a data analytics service that allows us to tell when animals are about to get sick, when a disease outbreak has occurred. On the breeding side, we do estrus detection for peak ovulation, helping you be more efficient in your breeding decisions. And we're even working on a calving algorithm. So if you've got cows that are calving in the middle of the night, it's kind of a convenience factor for producers. But also, if they get into dystocia, we're hoping we can find that too and alleviate some of those concerns for producers. So it's all about improving animal profitability per animal, reducing death loss, increased responsiveness of the drugs when animals are sick because we're finding them early. And then, we don't have as many people in agriculture anymore. So it's a tool to help people become more efficient at their job so that as people leave the industry, we're more efficient with the young people coming back into the industry.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm sure our listeners would be curious, how did the name HerdDogg come about?
Well, that's probably a longer story than I know even. So I took over the company 18 months ago. The founder, she was a smaller producer, but had cattle in Oregon. And so I don't know how they came to HerdDogg, but it's certainly something we've leaned into and embraced. We use dogs on our ranching operation, not necessarily on our feedlot. You don't want to, not too many people want a dog in the feed yard, but yeah, I've been around herding dogs my whole life. So it kind of fits right in with just the normal life of a cattleman, right? It's a little bit like it's a little bit like having an extra set of eyes on your cattle 24/7. Right. So
cool. As technology continues to evolve, Andrew, what notable achievements have had a significant impact on your organization in recent time?
Yeah, so like I said, one of the companies I was involved with previously was another biometric sensor company for cattle, and that was another ear tag that had to be designed really strategically because we had big batteries that were heavy, so we couldn't put it on light cattle. We had very limited sensors. We had big sensors, big batteries, heavy tag, could only go on heavier cattle. And that was only 7 years ago. Now you fast forward to today, we shrunk down all that battery capacity into a tiny little battery. We've got, you want an accelerometer, there's 100 accelerometers to choose from. Just depends on how much data you want. And so as we've kind of, taken macro products and sensors and made them all very micro in the Internet of Things era, it's allowed us to build smaller, lighter products that do more over a longer period of time. And so the advances in battery technology and sensor technology have just allowed for a better product that is more usable to the consumers. And then on the back end of that, we have the machine learning, open AI movement, which if we collect anywhere from 480 to 900 data points per animal per day, suddenly we have the cloud-based algorithms that can do something with that. We don't have to have traditional data scientists and statisticians looking at this, finding what's wrong. It'll automatically trigger based on the animal's activity. So it makes it a very kind of reflex system where the system orients itself to the operation. You don't have to do a lot of tweaking. It can go from South Texas to Northern Alberta and Longhorn and Brahman cattle to purebred Angus cattle, and it works about the same across everything. So that's really taken it from a very manual process, very big, bulky technology, to a automated process, lightweight, sleek technology. And that's all happened in the last 5 to 7 years. So it's really been a big shift.
It's exciting for sure. What other advancements do you believe are needed to further enhance and revolutionize your business?
Well, we used to, in all my livestock and farming tech endeavors, we used to joke that every time Elon Musk launched a new battery, we all got more efficient, more power. And there was about 5 years in there where he was kind of leading the way and pushing everybody forward. And we're still seeing that, the harshness of agriculture. I've got to have whether, I've worked with plant sensors as well, out in the cropping sector. We've got to have something that is either solar powered or battery operated. Either way, it's going to have a battery. And, I'm in central Nebraska. It was -40 here in January. It was 105 a couple days ago. You're going to have something encased in plastic that's got to go through all those extremes throughout the year. It's going to be in snow and rain and muck and dust. And, we've just got to build something really robust. And when we were using commercial grade batteries, you can't take those to -40. They start on fire. But if you use a freezable battery, they don't have the same power. And so we're kind of on the cusp of that next battery revolution, which will open up even more of these sensor applications. So that's kind of an area that we're kind of waiting on, but we're moving forward, but we're also hoping for a bigger advancement soon. And it'll lower the cost as well. There are some batteries out there that can do it, but they're really expensive.
Yeah.
And then, I would say a larger group of individuals in the industry that really understand machine learning and artificial intelligence. We've got some good people on our team. We need more. But it's a slim pool, right? And we're competing with the Teslas and the Googles, and we're competing with big organizations. And we're startups. Some people like startups, but money talks. And so the more candidates we have in that area, the more it's going to help push agricultural tech forward.
Right. Well, I know our team earlier this year was working on a couple of general manager searches for some large feedlots, and we have a weekly update call, and they said, hey, for the next 2 weeks, we don't need to have a meeting. We got all hands on deck. So that harsh winter, it can be tough.
I mean, larger trend in the industry, because I'm still a producer, we just don't have the people out there, whether it's general managers or cowboys or feed managers. They're far and few between. There's less and less of them every day, which is why, as we see companies like HerdDogg, there's a company I'm meeting with tomorrow. They make automated feed trucks. All of these things are going to allow us to do more with less. So the people that are managing those things, suddenly your cowboy has to understand how to use technology. Your feedlot manager, we at HerdDogg and try and build really simple dashboards, but they've still got to be able to manage technology, and that's a skill set that hasn't been a requirement. Farmers have had to learn precision planting, but that was kind of the extent. And now it's all the other things that are coming into the industry that they're going to take some real effort to understand, right?
Yeah. Well, on that note, you mentioned you're meeting with somebody with an automated technology. You said an automated feed truck, is that right? A
Yep.
robotic feed truck? Yeah.
Yep.
So on that note, we work with a growing number of private equity firms that are eager to invest in the ag space. Let's suppose they're introducing a new technology to your organization. What advice do you have for investors into the space when they're considering bringing new technology? What do you want them to understand before they get to your operation?
I think they just need to understand the environment that we're working in and the pace of the industry, right? Decisions in this industry are made over a really long period of time suddenly. Does that make sense? We'll weigh the cattle market for a whole season, and then we'll trigger a buy or sale at the last minute. People, it takes a lot of work to make these sales. It takes a lot of work building the relationship to get people comfortable with your technology. And then all of a sudden they'll just, okay, now we love it. We need 10,000 of them. And you've got to be able to grow and support that quickly. You've got to be really reactive, but you got to be proactively building those relationships. And ag is such a small industry, as you understand. I can, just about probably through 2 or 3 degrees of separation, just about call any cattleman in the country. Yeah. And so it's a very small network. And that's another thing. You can't burn bridges in this industry. You can't, you can have some failures trying to get your technology out there. You can learn and grow with your customers. But ultimately, you have to listen to them and you have to be responsive.
Well, you hinted on it earlier. I want to touch on the talent needs of our industry. The more automation, the more technology that comes into our space and opportunities. What are some of the talent gaps that you see on a regular basis that our industry needs to consider?
Oh, man. One of the biggest ones that we're really starting to face now is veterinarians. And just animal health professionals in general, whether it's the cowboy or the vet tech or the veterinarian themselves. The University of Nebraska is trying to address this by offering pretty much full ride scholarships for vet students that are going to go into large animal health. And people think, wow, that's going to be really competitive, and that's a really generous offer. They don't even have full applicants. There's just not enough people coming into that space. We really have to learn where to go find pen riders and find good ones, train them and build them up over time and pay them well. Animal health is 365 days a year. You can't take Sundays off. You can't take holidays off. When you're a veterinarian, you're on call. It's a rewarding life, but it can be a hard, draining life. And, as we get into these new generations that didn't grow up that way, I grew up pretty much on call. If something happened at the feedlot, we were going to get up on, if we were in church, we were going to get up after the sermon and go to the feedlot, so that's just how it was. And with a generation that wasn't raised that way, you're asking a lot to get them into those positions. And so, we see that struggle all the time. If you look at death loss in feedlots over the last 10 years, death loss bottomed out in 2013. Well, that was when we still had a lot of boomers managing feed yards, a lot of, kind of older veterinarians that hadn't retired yet, that had entire careers worth of knowledge, either consulting or actually practicing on these animals. And now that generation's fading out, and death loss goes up every single year. We're on a 11-year trend now where death loss is on the rise in every sector of the cattle industry. And so that, we have better tools than we've ever had. We also have increasing death loss. And that comes back to the animal health workers themselves, being able to give them tools and hopefully develop that talent with our universities, with our trade schools, our tech schools, to get more people back into that specific sphere of the industry.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned veterinarians. My team's working on 3 different veterinary searches right now for the livestock industry.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you know
yeah. Almost
firsthand how
makes me
tough
want to
it
go
is.
back to vet school.
Yeah. Well, great. One last question, Andrew. What is one piece of technology that you couldn't do without every day in your work?
Oh man, I live on my smartphone. I do my best to put it down in the evenings, but from 6 a.m. to probably 8 p.m., it's not just the email and the phone, but I've got apps that tell me how cattle are doing at my customers' operations. We've got apps that are tracking what's going on with our grazing patterns on our ranch. We've got all the weather apps that, we're monitoring heat stress in our cattle to feedlots. It's all these things that kind of come to one place, and I can look at it briefly. That's why all the technologies that have to be designed for ag have to have a really intuitive app so that it's quick and it's easy. But quick glance at what's going on the feed yard through our weather app, and you can make calls. Quick glance at our rainfall patterns and our grazing app, and you can make quick calls, right? And that's something I grew up. I'm right on the cusp of not having a cell phone till I was late in high school, which I appreciate, because I remember calling trees when I was a kid. I was on the swim team, and we were like 4th or 5th. And so, somebody'd call us and we'd call 2 people and they'd call 2 people. I remember that. I remember, my grandparents still had the rotary phone, and phones just weren't really a thing. My dad got one of the very first cell phones so that he could, call the trade desk 24 hours a day anywhere he was. So, but, now they've become ubiquitous. They're the platform we use for everything, right? Desktop apps are great, but especially in the cattle industry, very rarely do I see a feedlot manager meet with a feedlot manager while he's sitting behind a computer. He's in a truck, he's in the yard, he's at the sale barn, he's at lunch with a client, so it's all based on that phone. And I'm the exact same way.
Yeah. We're all married to our devices for sure.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, if listeners wanted to learn more about HerdDogg, how do they do so?
Yeah, so they can check out any of our social media. It's all at HerdDogg on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or they can go to herddogg.com. That's with 2 D's and 2 G's at the end. So HerdDogg.com. They can reach out to me directly through any of those channels, and we'd love to, if they're interested in our technology or they're interested in being a customer, we'd love to get them set up.
Yeah, well, you've got a great website and a great product, and we appreciate you joining us today, Andrew. For our listeners, if you want to learn more about our Industry Uncovered Ag Tech podcast series, you can go to charlesaris.com and find the agricultural practice, and you can access several other podcast series related to ag tech. And we thank you.